Welcome. Today is Thursday, March 19th. It is 4 o'clock-ish and I'm heading into work for my 5:15 p.m. class. Thursdays are generally my busier days. Had to wake up at 4:15 this morning. I coach the 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. and then I have personal training in the mornings. So it's a pretty full day for me. I worked out this morning as well, so I got that out of the way. I'm trying a new microphone, so I'm not sure how the audio is going to be. I'm hoping it's going to be better than my other videos. Hopefully more consistent would be a good word. But we'll see how it goes when I'm done with this. Anyway, it's been a good week. This Saturday is actually my wife's, I say my wife's, I guess mine too, our baby shower for little baby David at the gym. We're going to be having 2 baby showers. The first one will be this weekend with the gym. Then there will be another one in a couple weeks. I don't really know when it is, if I'm being totally honest, with just my family. And I think my wife's work actually threw her a baby shower today. So that was cool, very nice of them. And then Sunday, we've got to spend the day cleaning because Tuesday we're having pictures of our house taken because we're putting our house on the market so that way we can get out of it and try to get into something a little bit more cheap, a little more affordable. We didn't take Dave Ramsey's advice and we are now what he would call house poor. And unfortunately, he was right on what we could afford and we bit off a little more than we could chew. So trying to downsize with that. Anyway, I'm still trying to figure out what it is that I want to do with this vlog, with this this YouTube channel thing that I'm doing. I don't even know if it is a vlog. I'm still trying to figure out my North Star. But today I wanted to talk about the concept of doing health as opposed to being healthy and what that means, because I think there's a lot of confusion out there as to what that entails. And while these two things sound very similar on the surface, there's actually an important difference between the two that's kind of the deciding factor between looking good and performing well and feeling good and being frustrated and very unhappy and dissatisfied with your life and fitness journey. To the point where oftentimes people that are trying to do health, they end up giving up on the health thing altogether. And then the quality of their life just drastically goes down, which is what we don't want. Because as you may or may not know, if you don't have your health, you really don't have anything. And that's why I've essentially dedicated my life to getting people healthier, because I just see how important it is to be healthy with everything that you do. And like I talked about in my video last week, this is a topic that people don't ask enough questions about because they largely don't even know that there are questions to ask on this topic. And then when they do ask, they're asking the wrong people. They're going to wherever, their friend that doesn't know anything about anything, or Google, or even worse, Reddit. And they're bombarded with information that's telling them that X, Y, and Z are the keys to health. And then they have no choice but to believe it, because why would someone lie to them? Why would their friend lie to them when they have their best interest at heart? And they genuinely do have their best interest at heart, but they unfortunately just don't know anything about anything. So trust me, I get it. But this is my YouTube channel and I can do whatever I want on it, and I'm going to tell you the truth about health and fitness. With that being said, everything in this video revolves around the goal of being as fit and healthy as possible. And to define these terms, fitness and health have the exact same definition. The goal is to increase your work capacity across broad time and modal domains. This is the definition of fitness and health. The real definition of health is has a slight difference, but it's a small enough difference to where it's negligible, and I can get away with saying they're the same thing for most situations. Anyway, if your goal is not to be as fit and healthy as possible, then nothing that I'm about to say in this video applies to you. But if your goal is to be as fit and healthy as possible, then everything that I'm about to say in this video is true and will apply to you. You don't have to take the information, but I'm telling you it's true. And this is the topic that I know a lot about. This is what I do. But if it is your goal to be as fit and healthy as possible, then this video is for you. Now, there are 3 things that you need to be doing for your health. If you aren't doing these 3 things, you're 100% wasting your time with all the other things that I'm going to talk about afterwards in this video. But we'll get there. The first thing that you need to be doing for your health is training hard. It seems obvious, and largely it is, but what isn't obvious is what hard means. It's going to be a little bit different for everyone. So I kind of want to define what that means a little bit. And when I say hard, I mean that you need to be training 4 to 6 days per week and be willing to absolutely murder yourself on at least one of those days, at least one. And on the days that you don't murder yourself, you need to be going harder than you probably want to. Certainly, you need to be going harder than what is comfortable. Now, that's not to say that there aren't days where you can take it easy in the gym. You need to listen to your body. In fact, just this week, I had a day where I took it very easy. I took a lot of weight off the bar that I was supposed to have. It's supposed to be a 225-pound workout. I had 135 pounds on the bar. I was just moving. And I set the clock for 15 minutes. It was supposed to be a 15-minute workout. And I just went for the full 15 minutes until I decided that I'd had enough of that workout. But that isn't the norm for me, and it really shouldn't be if my goal is to be as fit and healthy as possible. Now, a common rebuttal to this would be, what if I can't murder myself in the gym? I can't even do a pull-up. And that's a great question. The answer would be that intensity is a relative term, and what's intense for Frankie may not be intense for Matt Fraser, who's the fittest guy that has ever lived. He's 5-time CrossFit Games champ, however many time CrossFit Games champ. What's intense for me is going to be very easy for him, and what's intense for you may be very different than what's intense for me. And that's totally okay and valid. But you need to be pushing yourself to your own maximum level of intensity that you can, whatever that means for you. We have a saying in CrossFit, you don't need a harder workout, you need to go harder in your workout. It's not just about more weight. There's more to fitness than strength. And I'm not saying that strength isn't important, because it's actually really important, but it's not as important as the intensity in which you are training, particularly, again, if your goal is to be as fit and healthy as possible. And actually, we can measure intensity, but that's another video for another day, and we're getting into the weeds with what that is. But to keep it simple, just remember, every day you should do two things: lift something heavy and run out of breath. If you do both of those things daily, you're well on your way to a fitter, healthier life for yourself. So that's the first thing. The second thing that you need to be doing to be healthy is you need to have a clean diet. And as always, we like to define what this means, because if I didn't, then that clean diet term is wildly open to interpretation. And now we're back to where we started, which is a bunch of ambiguity and uncertainty. So when it comes to having a clean diet, there are a few strategies that you could use for achieving this, and they all ultimately end up with the same result, which is a healthier body. Anyway, here is what a healthy diet looks like. Eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. Keep intake to levels that support exercise but not body fat. Now here's what I want you to notice about that statement. The first half of it tells you what to eat. Eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. That tells you the quality of food to eat. The second half of the statement tells you the quantity of how much to eat. Keep intake to levels that support exercise but not body fat. And this is actually the official dietary prescription of CrossFit. And if you aren't following this dietary prescription, then you're not actually doing CrossFit like you think you are. And if you're not doing CrossFit, you're not as healthy as you could be if you were doing CrossFit. And honestly, that's fine, because not everyone's goal is to be as fit and healthy as they can be. And how do we know if this dietary prescription is working? It's actually pretty simple. Is your work capacity across broad, time, and modal domains improving? Meaning, are you getting fitter? If you are, then your diet is working. If you're not, something needs to be adjusted somewhere. Just like training hard, this is another simple, fairly obvious thing that you need to be doing for your health. But also, like training hard, simple doesn't necessarily mean easy. But again, it is certainly simple. I just realized I think there's a glare on my glasses, so I'm gonna take these off. And if you need an even simpler way to remember how to eat healthy, eat real foods, mostly plants, and not too much. That's the exact same protocol as what I said before. It's just a step more basic. And nothing that I've said so far has been groundbreaking, and both of the things that I mentioned, training hard and eating cleanly, are probably things that you already know. But there's one more thing that you need to be doing to maximize your health if that's your goal, and that is your sleep. Your sleep habits probably aren't great, and you aren't getting enough of it. Generally speaking, the more the merrier. And we've all heard the general consensus of 8 hours, and that's a great goal to strive for. For a lot of people, that isn't realistic, and I get it, but ultimately, reality doesn't really care about what's realistic and what's not realistic. And if it's not realistic, it needs to be because your schedule doesn't allow for it, and not because you're on your phone all night in your bedroom. And you may have heard the term overtraining. I don't actually think that overtraining is possible, but what is possible is underfueling and under-recovering. But as long as you're getting the appropriate amount of sleep, you're not at any real risk of overtraining, which is great, because overtraining is where risk of injuries really skyrocket. And that truthfully is the importance of sleep. Because believe it or not, you don't get fitter while you train, while you're doing the squats, while you're doing the Metcon and murdering yourself. You get fitter while you recover. And the only way to recover is to sleep. and fuel yourself, but sleep. Therefore, if you aren't prioritizing your sleep, you aren't prioritizing your recovery, and consequently, you aren't prioritizing your fitness. With this being said, I'm not sitting here telling you that I sleep 8 hours every single night, because that's simply not true. But just because I don't do it doesn't mean that I'm wrong. But that's basically the 3 things that you need to be doing to be healthy. And now what I really want to talk about, and the point of this video, is what it means to do health as opposed to truly being healthy. When it comes to doing health, I largely think of gimmicks and things that have no rhyme or reason aside from trying to make a quick buck off of you. These things typically fall into one of 4 buckets, and sometimes more than one of those buckets. These buckets are, number 1, they're complex and often have contradictory information on them. Point number 2 is that they're not simple, but they are easy. Bucket number 3 is that the cost to benefit ratio is completely out of whack. The bang for the buck simply isn't there. And number 4 is that they're doing these things in place of one of the 3 things that I said earlier. And this one is almost always true. And if you do any of the things that I'm about to mention without doing the 3 things that I mentioned earlier, you're stepping over $100 bills to pick up pennies. With this being said, here are some examples of doing health, and keep in mind that this list isn't all inclusive. There's more things not on this list than there are things that are on this list. But I just wanted to give you an idea of kind of what to look for in regard to doing health and what that looks like. The first thing is going to be things like weird cleanses, fasts, and supplements. You'll hear people say things like, I only eat X foods at X times, or they'll talk about the apple cider vinegar fast that they're currently doing. And you'll notice that these people are always trying something new with their diet. And here's what I want you to notice about these people. If you ask them what their goal is with this, it's almost always to lose weight. But also, I'm here to tell you that there's a lot more to health than just weight loss. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here telling you that being fat is healthy, because it's not. And anyone that says it is healthy is 100% lying to you or themselves, or lying to whoever. But there is far more to health than your body weight. And your body weight is one metric upon dozens that need to be looked at in regard to painting a full picture of your health. But again, that's another topic for another day. Let's get back to the cleanses, fasting, and supplements. While there's a lot that are wrong with these things, I can boil it down to one simple point. With the goal of losing weight, which again is a great goal, what are you going to do when you hit your goal weight? Which is a term that I think is also somewhat dumb, but again, another video for another day. Once you hit your goal weight, are you going to stop your apple cider vinegar cleanse and go back to your old dietary habits? Because I'll tell you what's going to happen if that's your plan. You're going to gain the weight back every single time. It doesn't not happen. That's how it works. If you don't change your habits, everything stays the same. And this will continue to happen until you change your diet, like I mentioned earlier. The whole meat and vegetable, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar thing. If you change your diet, you'll find absolutely zero need for any of these weird cleanses, fasts, and supplements. And when people do these gimmicky things, it's usually for one of 2 reasons. Either they don't know better, or it's because they don't have the discipline to follow a proper diet. And if you don't know better, well, now you do. So you're welcome. And as far as supplements go, if you were to ask me if there are any that I do recommend, 99% of supplements don't do a daggum thing, because the ones that actually do something are illegal. With that being said, I would highly recommend creatine, as it does have a lot of benefits. But people are afraid of creatine because it'll cause you to gain weight. But I want to remind you that this isn't a bad thing. But if you are afraid of gaining weight due to creatine, and you're choosing to eat garbage and drink alcohol regularly, and I've got a lot to say about your alcohol consumption, that's coming, don't you worry, then you're absolutely 100% missing my point. And you will really struggle to hit your health goals, assuming that they're related to being as fit as possible. Anyway, aside from creatine, fish oil is a great supplement to take, as well as possibly magnesium. But if you're eating the way that I'm telling you to, you can get by without it. Also, I personally put pink Himalayan sea salt in all of the water that I drink. Every bottle, every ounce, every sip that I drink, I have pink Himalayan sea salt in it. And that's just a side note. Salt isn't the enemy that you've been told that it is, just so you know. Again, another video for another day. The next doing health thing, cold plunges and saunas. Do these things have benefits? Sure. If you're doing the other 99% of things correctly, then these things will take you to that last 1% that you're missing. But if you're doing 20% of the things correctly and you're spending your time in the sauna after doing your bicep curls in front of the mirror, going from 20% to 21% is not going to be worth it. And to be totally honest, sauna, cold plunge, this is one of those cop-out things that I see people doing in exchange for training hard. They're not willing to make themselves uncomfortable in a workout, so they go and do their little mediocre workout, and then they go sit in the sauna and call that discomfort. And they equate that to working hard in the gym, and it's simply not the same thing. You get the idea. These things are useless for 99% of people unless you're already doing everything else correctly. And even then, is the bang for the buck really there? I'm going to argue no, it's not. Next on the list is going to be blue light blockers, blue light glasses, or general wearables that are designed to help you sleep. Is there a benefit to tracking your sleep? Sure. But the reality is that you really only benefit from this data if you're willing to do something about it whenever you get the data. As for the blue light glasses, you're wasting your time putting your blue light glasses on after you've spent 6+ hours of screen time on your phone. Not to mention, if you're using your phone in bed, you're already, again, stepping over $100 bills to pick up absolute pennies. So I would say no phones in bed. You want your brain to associate your bed with sleeping, not with entertainment. If you're using your phone up until the time that you go to sleep and you're struggling with sleep, we found a major area that can be improved upon, which is good. It's great. And again, this is simple, but as we've mentioned, simple doesn't necessarily mean easy, but it is certainly simple. Ultimately, to sum up everything that I've said, if you do the 3 things that I mentioned, train hard, eat cleanly, sleep well, all the other pieces will fall into place. I mean, honestly, they have to in order for those 3 things to happen. And if you're choosing to do health as opposed to simply living a healthy lifestyle, you're chasing a shortcut that never comes. Like I've said over and over, you're stepping over $100 bills to pick up a penny. And if you aren't doing the 3 things that I mentioned, don't waste your time or money on other gimmicks to help you do health better. Health is simple. Simple doesn't mean easy, but it is certainly simple. There's a quote that says, "The lazy man works twice as hard." If you do it right the first time, you avoid all of this frustration altogether. And one more thing, if you claim at all to care about your health and you drink alcohol, wine, beer, whatever it is, you are absolutely wasting your time. It has 0 benefits at all whatsoever. And anyone that has convinced themselves of the pros of drinking is lying to themselves. And that's totally okay. But just know that you aren't serious about any of your goals, and you will not achieve them. If you heard nothing else I said from this video, hear me when I say that alcohol is stopping you from your goals. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. See ya. That's exactly how it's supposed to go. Okay. It's exactly how that goes. Okay? That was great. All right, so here's what we're gonna do.